Leviathan stands in the bathroom to wash his face, reminding himself that a true man never fears any difficulty. While remembering the face of the man he beat up earlier, he reminds himself that he will have the $3 million and the book, The Sunken Crook. After washing his face, Leviathan thinks that there may be more rewards in the future, and he will have it all. He gets out of the bathroom to the hall where a lot of people are looking at him. He remembers that there would be a red light around the people who hold hostility toward him. The more dangerous the person is, the redder the light around them will be, and his ability to see through people with malice is a special treat for Nether Shingzhou. He looks toward the Red Phantom as he calls him and sees the deepest red light around the person sitting beside him. Red Phantom interrupts his thoughts again as he gives him some money, saying that he should get a bank account as soon as possible, and he will transfer the money he won from the boxing games directly to his account. Leviathan inquires about the money Red Phantom is giving him right now, to which Red Phantom replies that it is from Judy, as she asked him to buy a nice suit for tomorrow's dinner. Red Phantom then says that he must be tired from the boxing match and asks him if he wants to go out and eat with him. Leviathan tries to reject the offer, saying that he just finished the bloody fight and is not feeling well, so maybe they should go another time. But Red Phantom ignores his protest, saying that he needs some nutrition after his last fierce fight. Leviathan finally agrees with him and they both leave for dinner. Leviathan is surprised when they reach the place, as he thought Red Phantom would take him to some fancy restaurant, but instead, they come to a food street for dinner. They start to eat as Red Phantom tells him that this place has the best hot pot and encourages him to try it. As they both take a sip from their alcohol bottles, Red Phantom asks Leviathan where did he learn the boxing skills because he seems to know a lot. Leviathan replies that Red Phantom is also an expert at traditional martial arts, to which Red replies that he is not an expert. He says that in Kowloon City, no one dares to boast about their knowledge of martial arts, especially not in the territory of Tai Tsui, and Tai Tsui was the one who taught him everything. Listening to his story, Leviathan asks him if Tai Tsui is a master of traditional martial arts and what are his expertise. Red Phantom gives a detailed reply to his question, saying that Tai Tsui is the honorary president of the Hong Kong Martial Arts Association and he has challenged a lot of martial art training centers. He says that it is Tai Tsui who brought fame and power to the Kowloon underworld boxing industry through fights, and he is a real master. Red Phantom suddenly realizes that he's the one answering Leviathan questions even though he asked first, and scolds Leviathan for changing the direction of their talk. Leviathan finally replies to his earlier question, saying that when he was in Guangdong, he learned from the master of Bai Hemen, but by then he already studied martial skills of other styles as well, so he can't say for sure which particular school of martial arts he belongs to. He then asks Red Phantom if he heard of Howard Lei, to which Red replies that he doesn't know her. Their discussion is interrupted by the shouting of another person, who scolds the young waitress for spilling the hot soup on him. The young waitress is Leviathan's neighbor Sue, who apologizes for her mistake, but the customer doesn't take it very well, saying that her apology is not enough, and he slaps Sue. She tries to apologize again while holding her bruised cheek and crying, but the customer continues to shout at her, saying he will beat her up. He goes for another slap, but someone grabs his hand this time, and he kicks him in the face, throwing him into the furniture. Leviathan pushes Sue behind him as he says that it was just a bit of hot water, and he apologizes on behalf of this little girl. The man is enraged by Leviathan's tactics as he shouts at him, saying how can he do that, and then he calls for his friends. He tells Leviathan that it must feel nice to act as a hero and says that Leviathan doesn't know him, and he is with Wosun Champ Gang. The customer then takes out his knife and walks toward Leviathan, saying that he will give him the honor of becoming a great hero. He pushes the knife toward Leviathan, daring him to stab this in his neck. He starts to give threats, but is interrupted when Leviathan knocks the knife out of his hand into his own and cuts his shirt collar in one movement, barely missing his neck. The man is shocked by this as he stumbles and falls back down, and Leviathan comments that it is a good knife. Red Phantom finally takes part in the situation by saying that he is so scared by the mention of gangs and asks the customer if he wants to fight. The customer is shocked to see Red Phantom there and quickly says he didn't know about his presence there. Red Phantom ignores his words and instead asks him if he's new to the Wosun Champ Gang, because he never saw him before, and says that he's regular to this spot and that little girl is just a poor waitress here, so why was he giving her a hard time? He orders the man to say sorry to Sue and leave after paying for the broken chairs and desks. The customer quickly obliges to what Red Phantom said as he apologizes to the girl for being rude, and quickly leaves with his team after settling everything. Red Phantom then turns to Leviathan, saying he didn't knew he liked this type of girl, and no wonder that he didn't react happily when he introduced him to Judy. Leviathan quickly interrupts him, saying that this girl is his neighbor, and Red Phantom was the one who gave him the key to that apartment. Red Phantom replies by saying that he was just joking. He gives Leviathan a cell phone and says that he doesn't need to play boxing tomorrow, just buy a nice suit and wait for his call. He will then take him to Judy's after that and warns him that he won't accept a no-show, and he should remember that he can easily toss him into the sea. Leviathan is more focused on all the new things Red Phantom is offering him and quickly clears that he is not interested in boys, to which Red Phantom only laughs. Leviathan then comes back home with Sue and tells her to go home, saying that it is late and her mom must be worried about her. Sue goes to her apartment after thanking him, while Leviathan comes back to his apartment. As soon as he enters, he starts to feel dizzy as a darkness clouds his vision and he passes out in the middle of the room. Leviathan drags himself to his bed, where he takes his medicine as he tries to calm himself while his body trembles badly. He thinks to himself about how his bones started to ache right after he was done with the match, and just now he drank some alcohol which made the pain even worse. He then takes out the money from his pocket, thinking that they are 30 grand plus the 50 grand he won from the match that Red Phantom will transfer to him tomorrow, and he will have 13 nether points. After getting the money from Red Phantom, he's planning to buy the hematopoietic cell strengthener, or he's going to be in trouble if he goes crazy during the game. The other thing he will get is the book The Sunken Crook, but he is thinking he has no information about that book. The next day, Leviathan dresses in the suit as per Red Phantom's instructions and goes to dinner with Miss Judy. They spend a good time together as they eat and drink while having some interesting conversations. After dinner, he comes back to his area on the bus and then starts walking the rest of the way to his apartment. He ignores some people beating another man on the way and continues to walk while thinking that dining with a sponsor is much more tiring than he thought. He is planning to make the best of his time to take a rest, as he will have to be vigilant and careful in boxing matches. He stops in his track when a man suddenly comes in front of him and bumps into him. Leviathan quickly holds the man's arm and tries to punch him with the other hand, but the man easily stops his punch and pushes him back. Leviathan realizes that this man just used military grappling wrestling technique. The man quickly apologizes for his mistake. Leviathan asks him where he is from, and when the man replies by saying that he's from the Heijan area in Anwen County, Leviathan tells him that he's from the same place too, and he even peed behind the broken temple of Anwen County. Leviathan then tells his name to the man and offers a handshake while asking his name in return. The man shakes his hand as he replies that his name is Anthony, but people usually call him Tony. Leviathan continues to casually chat with Tony, saying that he didn't expect to meet a fellow countryman here, and asks him why he came to Hong Kong. Tony replies that he came here with several fellow countrymen, thinking they might make a fortune here. He then asks Leviathan why he came here, to which he replies that his story sounds too bizarre to be true and he won't believe it, so it is better he don't tell him. Tony in reply asks him if he robbed a bank and is being chased after by the Hong Kong police. Before Leviathan could reply to him, his phone starts ringing and he picks it up and starts talking to Red Phantom, saying he wants to grab a drink, but he just had dinner with Judy. Red Phantom in reply asks him where he is, and when Leviathan tells him that he's in his apartment building, Red Phantom tells him to stay put because there's a group of robbers hiding in the building and that he should mind his own safety. Leviathan in reply tells him to lower his voice when talking on phone, saying that he's being so loud that people around him can hear his every word, which puts him in an awkward situation. Red Phantom tells him that those robbers are brutal killers and their leader is called Anthony, but before he could finish his sentence, Leviathan hangs up the phone. He then turns to Tony, saying that his friend is a blabbermouth and how could you just assume someone to be a brutal killer? They are interrupted by the cat coming there and Sue following her as she tells Leviathan that her kitten is being naughty again and asks them if it disturbed them. Leviathan doesn't reply to her and instead kneels down in front of her, asking if she has some money on her because he wants a favor from her, and tells her to get out of the building and buy him a pack of candy. Sue agrees to help him as she happily runs away, telling Leviathan to wait for her. Leviathan then stands up, sensing something bad as Tony, who is standing behind him, takes out his gun. 1 hour earlier, Red Phantom was in a meeting with his uncle James, who tells him that all the places in the north of Longjin Road belong to Tai Tsui, and it is true that he is responsible for the security of Kowloon City. But to ask him to look for someone is Tai Tsui's territory is not good, and instead Red should do it. Red Phantom replies that his field of work is underworld boxing, and he doesn't have time to help the police find some fugitives. He then says to James that he can go ahead with the search and he can search wherever he wants as long as he doesn't mess up the place. James instead suggests that he should ask for advice from Tai Tsui as he has time and can wait. Red Phantom replies that he can't bother Taitsui with this tiny issue, as he will get his legs broken, and he tells James that he can do whatever he wants. Just then, a man comes inside the room saying that they found them as the group went to a clinic that is familiar to us, and the doctor there secretly notified the police, so now the police have entered Kowloon City. James replies that they don't need to bother Taitsui now, and when Red asks where the clinic is, he replies that it is at 22 Sumiao Street. Back in the Leviathan apartment building, he tells Tony that they can go on their way and he will not tell anyone about his identity. As he finishes his sentence, he hears the sound of a click as a gun is being pressed into his head. Tony asks Leviathan to turn around and he follows his orders as he slowly turns around, saying that it is no use killing him. Just then, he receives a notification from the system telling him that he has a new piece of information, and if he wants to read it, he will have to pay nether points for it. Leviathan decides to read the information and the whole space around him comes to a stop. A digital window appears in front of him, telling him that he has chosen to use amazing reading on the target. When he reads the information about the target's information or weaknesses, there won't be any new notifications and nether points will be automatically deducted. He then receives a notification that the target Anthony is locked and he can discard it at any time. The system displays that he didn't find the target's weaknesses, but if he keeps on using the amazing reading on the target, his chances to know the weaknesses of the target will be raised. Then, a window appears in front of him displaying all of the information about Tony, and Leviathan finds that he is a well-trained person and also a serial killer. The system ends the information with a comment, which states that normally they don't recommend nether players without a heritage to fight against thermal weapons. However, as you can see in the danger level section, the block is painted red, and when it's any color than black, he stands some chances to win the target. He comes back to reality when Tony shouts at him to be quiet and go with them. Leviathan follows his order as they go to a medical clinic where an injured man is lying on the bed and he is in pain. Tony brings Leviathan in with the gun still pointed to his head, and he tells one of the men named Charlie to tie his hands up and warns him to be careful because Leviathan knows martial arts skills. Just then, a doctor comes into the room and after seeing Leviathan, he immediately shouts at Tony, asking him why he bring one more person here. As Charlie goes to tie Leviathan's hand, Tony replies to the doctor that he is sorry, but he has got 40 grand in the bag plus the 20 grand he agreed to give him earlier, and altogether he will have 60 grand because they will have to stay here for a long time, and he is hoping that the doctor can give proper medical treatment to his buddy. Doctor becomes really happy after hearing it, and Tony points his gun to the head of the doctor, who immediately says that he will help them as they are good friends, and he cannot leave them when they are in trouble. Despite the doctor agreeing to help them, Tony still pulls the trigger, shooting him in the head, which results in the death of the doctor. As the doctor's limp body falls on the floor, Tony tells his team that the doctor ratted them out, and the police will be here soon, so they need to get going. While silently watching this situation, Leviathan thinks to himself that Tony is not some ordinary robber. He is cruel and decisive, and they will have to go now or they will be arrested by the police. According to him, Kowloon City is not like any other place. It's crowded and the roads are narrow with complicated small alleys, so running from here is not as easy. Charlie asks Tony what will happen to their injured friend Ken, and instead of replying to him, Tony goes to Ken and while shaking his hand, asks him if he trusts him. Ken replies to him that he believes him, to which Tony says to him that as long as he's not a pirate, he will not be sentenced to death in Hong Kong. He tells Ken that he will have to stay here and the police will take him to the hospital where he has to wait for him, and even if he has only one breath left, he promises to rescue him from the prison. Charlie is not happy with this. He shouts at Tony that he promised to never abandon Ken. Tony yells that they all promised to listen to him when they set out for Hong Kong, but Charlie interrupts him, saying that how can they listen to him when he's trying to abandon their brother, and they entrust him with their lives, but he's repaying them by treating their brother so badly. Suddenly, they both point their guns at each other as Tony says that if he wanted to abandon his brothers, he wouldn't have come back, and he begs Charlie to go with him. Charlie instead urges him to pull the trigger, saying that he can kill him, then he will get all the money. Charlie knocks over the briefcase of money, saying that they are going to die anyway, so there's no use for money. Tony shouts at him to shut up, and in their own fighting, they fail to pay attention to Leviathan, who silently picks up the knife from the medical kit lying on the nearby table. He takes quick action and wraps his still tied arms around Charlie's neck and puts the knife on his neck. Tony shouts Charlie's name, but Leviathan tells him to step back, saying that Charlie will die if he pulls the knife. Tony tells Leviathan that if he stabs the knife, he will be dead, but Leviathan is unfazed by the threat as he shouts back at them, saying that he will stab Tony if they moves again. Charlie tells Leviathan to pull the knife if he dares, while his team members tell him to let go of Charlie, who is not worried as he says that he will die anyway when the police arrives, so he would rather his chances now. Tony then negotiates with Leviathan, saying that he is surrendering and on the count of 3, he will put his gun down and he can let go of Charlie. Leviathan agrees with their suggestion, but when Tony starts counting, and as they throw their guns on the count of 3, he pulls the knife, cutting Charlie's throat in one go. Tony and his team members are shocked as they rush to pick up their guns while Leviathan cuts the ropes around his wrists and throws the knife at Tony, who is about to shoot him, knocking the gun down from his hand in the process. Before Tony could do something else, Leviathan attacks him by kicking his chin with his knee, throwing him and his gun back down. Another member of Tony's group quickly picks up the gun and fires it at Leviathan, who is running toward him. Leviathan barely dodges the bullet and quickly punches the man in the face, knocking him out in the process. Tony tries to get up from the floor and pick up his pistol, while Ken tightly holds Leviathan's leg as he was standing nearby him and shouts at Tony to run away. Leviathan takes quick action again as he picks up the knife from the medical kit and stabs it in Ken's head, killing him on the spot. At this time, Tony quickly dives down, picks up the gun, and tries to fire it at Leviathan, who jumps from where he was standing with the knife in his hand. Leviathan stabs Tony with the knife as the system displays to him that he had been using the amazing reading for 9 minutes and 43 seconds. Still, no weakness of the target has been identified, but he paid 5 nether points for the process. The system then tells him that the target is dead as he calmly walks away from the room full of dead bodies belonging to Tony's gang. The system tells Leviathan that he got the 2 pieces of the ancient book, the Sunken Crook, and he also activated a new nether mission. The requirements for his mission are that he has to awaken the shattered soul in the book fragments with ubume birds painted on, and if he fails, all the nether points he has in his mission will be deduced and his right of purchase will also be revoked. He finds that he will receive information about the book's location at any time. The effective distance is 5 kilometers, and he needs to be wary when the information arrives. He sees 2 cards with the pictures of someone named Madame Ki Hong and Ao on them, as the system gives him a reminder that he will gain more benefits if he gets more fragments of the book. The system then displays a notice asking him if he remembers what the system said to him when he first entered, and then shuts down after telling him to relax and have fun while addressing him as Lord Xingzhou. Leviathan thinks to himself that life is karma, because who would have known that this bloodbath could bring him such a precious opportunity? Previously, when he was giving a statement at the police station, the officers told him that the robbers had snatched some antiques from a bank. There should be 5 fragments of the book, and they were supposed to be sold in a charity auction event, but he is curious about what they do to the rest of fragments as he only received 2 of them. As he walks out of the police station, Red Phantom is waiting for him and he quickly asks him if he's alright and if they gave him a hard time. Leviathan thanks him for his help as Red Phantom tells him that Tai Tsui gave them a heads up or otherwise he wouldn't have come out so soon. Red Phantom then points to Judy standing nearby beside her car as he tells Leviathan that she paid for his bail and he should thank her for that. Leviathan replies that he just got out of trouble and he doesn't think he should dine with Judy right now, but Red Phantom is not happy with the statement as he says that she got $10 billion and a gorgeous body, so he shouldn't be reluctant as it is not like he's being executed. Leviathan finally gives in to the offer as Judy approaches him and starts to walk him away while holding his arm, and she tells him that he needs a new suit. They later go to a restaurant for dinner where Judy says that it has been a long time since she bought a suit for someone and he looks great in it, while Leviathan is thinking that this suit costs as much as an hematopoietic cell strengthener and it is a total waste of money. Leviathan then turns to Judy and says that he can understand why someone would sponsor Boxer, no matter how much it is going to cost, but he doesn't understand why a woman would invite a killer of 4 robbers to dinner and even buy him an expensive suit. He says that he is curious to find out how much she knows about him, to which Judy tells him that when Red Phantom first talked to him about her, he must have told him that she is one of the richest persons in Kowloon City. Leviathan lights his cigarette as he replies to her that he was thinking about how rich she is and when he became desperate, he should kidnap her because a small portion of her wealth is enough for him to live the rest of his life. Judy replies to him by saying that she loves how honest he is even though his words are hurtful sometimes, and she asks him if he only wants money from her if he kidnapped her while she drags a foot under his leg up to his calf. She then continues saying that he asked her how much she knows about him because in the face of bloodthirstiness and violence, people usually feel fear or even disgust, but some may also be fascinated by fists, sweat, blood, flesh, and even slaughter, and she's the latter one from above too. Leviathan argues that there are many boxers, but Judy interrupts him by saying they are ugly and then tells him to come closer while ushering him with her finger. He leans down toward her and she tells him that when she saw him in a boxing match for the first time, she was thrilled. She leans close to him and pulls away after blowing air on his face while he nervously gulps, thinking that she's no ordinary woman and she's trying to get into his mind. He keeps blushing after that while Judy only shows a mischievous smile. Later at night, he's walking back home, ignoring the usual fight in his street, when he feels a burning sensation on his back. The system tells him that the fragments of the sunken crook has been located, and it asks him to receive the report. Leviathan is shocked as a digital map of the city appears in front of him. The distance mentioned is 100 meters away from his location. Leviathan suddenly starts running at full speed to reach the place, and after he reaches there, the system tells him that the reporting time lasted only for a minute. Leviathan is still not disappointed, as he is thinking that it was not in vain, because now he got to know that there are 2 fragments in Kowloon City. He comes out of his thoughts when a man standing in the alley shouts at him to go away, while another man comes out of the building. Leviathan recognizes the second man as Victor, who once wanted to have a boxing match with him, and quickly says hello to him, while Victor also recognizes him and is surprised to see him there. Victor brings him to his boss, Mr. Nine, who asks him why he came here. Leviathan replies that some stupid thief stole his wallet, and while chasing him, he came to this place, but he didn't expect it to see him here. Nine in reply tells him that he knows he's the famous god of the underworld in the city and his name is known to everyone, so what kind of thief was bold enough to steal from him? Leviathan tells him that he must be joking because he would never dare to call himself god of the underworld in Kowloon City because he's not trying to get himself killed. Nine then says to both of them that soon they will be meeting each other in the boxing arena. He tells Leviathan that it's been just a few days since Victor started boxing, and he already got 4 victories in a row as he smashed his opponents to a pulp. Victor is happy with the praise while Leviathan says to Nine that he is new to the city and hasn't gotten familiar with the place, so it would be great if they could tell him any reliable pawn shop in Kowloon City, as he took something precious that's been running down in his family for generations and he wants to pawn it out. Nine tells him that there is a pawn shop called Li Xing across the road. The owner offers reasonable prices, he has a huge social network, and he will just accept anything Leviathan wants to sell. He says that there aren't that many shops here in Kowloon City. Usually people with good stuff wouldn't choose to sell it here, and if he wants a higher price, he should find a shop outside the city. As Leviathan asks him if his bet of $50,000 still counts. Nine is thinking to himself that he is still after money and seems to be in urgent need of it. He then remembers Leviathan being with Judy and it all makes sense to him. Leviathan then thanks him by saying that he will check it out and leaves after he and Victor say goodbye to each other, saying that the next time they will meet will be in the arena.